I'm standing at the top of my basement stairs at 2:47 a.m. in the morning. My husband thinks I'm unconscious in our bed. He has no idea I can hear every word he's saying. "She won't wake up," he tells the 4 men standing in our basement. "I gave her double tonight. She's out cold." I watch him hand something to a stranger. The stranger hands him cash. $100 bills. That's when I see what's spread across our basement table. Photographs. Dozens of them. All of me, sleeping. Some show me in our bed, others on the couch, a few in positions I don't even recognize. My heart is pounding so loud I'm convinced they'll hear it. I grip the banister to keep from collapsing. One of the men picks up a photo, studies it like he's examining merchandise, then nods with satisfaction. My husband smiles. That smile I used to love. That smile I used to trust. But these men aren't the worst part of what I'm about to discover. The worst part is still hidden in that locked drawer in his office. And when I finally see what's inside, I'll realize my husband isn't just a criminal. He's been planning this since before we said I do. The evidence I'll find will show a pattern going back further than I could have imagined. Dates, times, payments, all meticulously documented in his own handwriting. He didn't just stumble into this. He chose it. He chose this over me, over our marriage, over everything we built together. And the number of men involved, the amount of money that changed hands, the sheer scope of what he created while I slept, will make the detectives assigned to my case physically sick when they see it. My name is Margaret. I'm 54 years old. I was a registered nurse for 28 years, married for 13, and a mother of 2 grown children. I thought I knew my husband. I thought I knew what love looked like, what safety felt like, what trust meant. For 8 months, David drugged me every single night with a prescription sedative he told me was a vitamin supplement. For 8 months, he ran a criminal operation out of our home while I lay unconscious upstairs. For 8 months, he violated every vow he ever made to me. But on November 2nd, I didn't swallow those pills. I stayed awake. And what I discovered that night set in motion a plan that would send my husband to prison for 22 years, cost him everything he owned, and expose a network of 47 men who thought they'd never be caught. This is the story of how I caught him, how I documented everything without him knowing, how I stayed 2 steps ahead while he thought I was unconscious, how I gathered evidence that would be used in multiple criminal trials. How I worked with federal investigators to build a case so airtight his lawyer would eventually advise him to take a plea deal. And how I made absolutely certain he would pay for every single thing he did. You're going to hear exactly what those pills contained, how much he was charging these men, what they were buying, and what happened when the FBI raided our home at 6 in the morning with a warrant that listed crimes I didn't even know existed. By the end of this story, you'll know the warning signs I missed, the red flags I explained away, and the one decision that saved my life. But right now, I need you to understand something. If this can happen to me, a medical professional, someone trained to recognize symptoms of medication, someone who thought she was careful, it can happen to anyone. It can happen to your mother, your sister, your daughter, your best friend. That's why I'm telling this story. That's why I need you to watch until the end. Because the warning signs I'm going to share could save someone's life. And if you don't subscribe to this channel right now, you might miss the next story that could protect someone you love. Think about that. Think about the person in your life who needs to hear this. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Because these stories, these warnings, they matter. They save lives. And if you choose not to subscribe, at least tell us why in the comments. Tell us what's stopping you from protecting yourself and the people you care about with this information. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Now, let me take you back to where this nightmare actually started. Back to a seemingly normal Tuesday morning in March, when my husband walked into our kitchen carrying a bottle of vitamins that would change everything. Back to the moment I made the choice to trust him. Back to the beginning of 8 months that would nearly destroy me, but ultimately make me stronger than I ever thought possible. March 15th, 2022. That's the day David came home with the vitamins. We'd been married for nearly 13 years at that point. We had a good life, the kind that looks perfect from the outside. A beautiful home in Denver, with a backyard and a 2-car garage. My 2 kids from my first marriage, Emma and Michael, adored him. He'd been their stepdad since they were little, since Emma was 7 and Michael was 5. He coached Michael's baseball team, walked Emma down the aisle at her college graduation, showed up to every recital and game and parent-teacher conference. David worked in pharmaceutical sales, which meant he traveled sometimes, but mostly worked from a home office we'd set up in what used to be a guest room. I was a nurse at Presbyterian Hospital, working the day shift in the cardiac unit. I'd been there for almost 15 years. Our routine was comfortable, predictable, the kind of safe and steady that you don't appreciate until it's gone. Looking back now, I can see the signs were there from the very beginning. Little things that didn't quite add up. Moments where David's explanation felt just slightly off. But when you trust someone completely, when you've built a life with them, when you've shared a bed and a mortgage and holiday dinners with extended family for over a decade, you don't look for red flags. You explain them away. You tell yourself you're being paranoid. You convince yourself that the strange feeling in your gut is just stress from work or hormones or not enough sleep. I did that for months. I ignored every single warning sign my body and brain tried to send me because the alternative, that my husband might be lying to me, felt impossible. David was the man who brought me coffee in bed on Sunday mornings. He was the man who held my hand during my father's funeral. He couldn't be dangerous. David walked into the kitchen that Tuesday evening with a bottle of supplements. I remember I was chopping vegetables for a stir-fry, and he came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist, and kissed my neck the way he always did when he got home from work. "Baby, I've been reading about this new study," he said. "Nurses are at high risk for chronic stress-related illness, heart disease, cognitive decline, sleep disorders, all of it." He opened the bottle and shook out 2 capsules into his palm. "These are clinical-grade supplements," he told me. B-complex, magnesium, adaptogenic herbs, some other compounds designed specifically for high-stress professions. My company just started carrying them. "I want you to start taking them every night before bed." I looked at the bottle. Plain white label, professional-looking, the kind of minimalist design you see on expensive wellness products. But the name of the company printed on the label was one I'd never heard of. "What company makes this?" I asked him. He kissed my forehead, that gentle gesture I'd come to associate with safety and love. "It's a subsidiary of Pfizer," he said. "New wellness division. Not on the market yet. I got it through the rep program. We get early access to products before they launch to the public." That should have been red flag number 1. I was a nurse. I'd worked in healthcare for nearly 3 decades. I knew how pharmaceutical samples worked. I knew the regulations, the labeling requirements, the way legitimate companies packaged their products. This didn't look like any sample I'd ever seen. The label was too generic, too vague. No dosage information, no list of active ingredients, no FDA warnings or disclaimers. But I trusted him. God help me. I trusted him more than I trusted my own professional training. That night, I took the first pill. We were sitting on the couch watching television, some crime drama I can't even remember now. David handed me the capsules with a glass of water at exactly 10:30, which I thought was sweet at the time. He was taking care of me, making sure I didn't forget, being the attentive husband he'd always been. I swallowed them without a second thought. Within 20 minutes, I felt the drowsiness hit me like a wave. It wasn't gradual or natural. It was sudden and overwhelming. Like someone had flipped a switch in my brain. My eyelids became impossibly heavy. My limbs felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. I remember trying to stand up to go to bed, and David had to help me walk up the stairs because my coordination was completely gone. And I wouldn't remember the next 8 hours of my life. I have no memory of getting into bed, no memory of the night passing, nothing until my alarm went off the next morning. For the first 2 weeks, I thought the vitamins were working exactly as David said they would. I'd sleep deeply, more deeply than I had in years. I'd wake up feeling rested in a way, though there was something off about it that I couldn't quite name. It wasn't the natural, refreshed feeling you get from good sleep. It was more like waking up from anesthesia, that foggy, disoriented sensation where your body is awake but your brain is still catching up. But then strange things started happening, things I couldn't explain away as easily. My daughter Emma called me one morning while I was getting ready for work. "Mom, did you look at those invitation samples I sent you?" she asked. "I need your opinion by today so I can place the order." I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, toothbrush in hand, completely confused. "Honey, what samples?" I asked her. "The ones we talked about last night," she said, and I could hear the worry creeping into her voice. I had no memory of talking to Emma the night before. None whatsoever. I checked my phone. Sure enough, there was a call log showing a 23-minute conversation with her at 10:47 p.m., but I had absolutely no recollection of it. "Mom, you told me you'd pick up the invitations for my bridal shower," Emma said. "You said you'd go to the stationery store on your lunch break today. When did we talk about this?" I asked, and I heard my voice shaking. "Last night, Mom. Around 10:30. Are you okay? You're scaring me." I was not okay. But I didn't know how to tell her that. I made up some excuse about being distracted at work, about having too much on my mind. But after we hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed, trying to remember anything about the previous night after taking those vitamins. There was nothing. Just a black void where hours of my life should have been. I started waking up in different pajamas. I'd go to bed in my usual oversized t-shirt, the faded one from a 5K I'd run years ago, and wake up in a silk nightgown I rarely wore. The nightgown was one David had bought me for our anniversary. Beautiful but impractical, the kind of thing that rides up when you sleep and needs to be dry cleaned. I never wore it to bed. When I asked David about it that morning, standing in our bedroom holding the silk fabric and feeling completely disoriented, he looked at me with what seemed like genuine concern. "You changed in the middle of the night, sweetheart," he said. "You were half asleep. You went to the closet and changed. You probably don't remember. It happened again 3 nights later, and then again. Each time, David had the same explanation. You were sleepwalking. You do things in your sleep. You don't remember because you weren't fully conscious." I wanted to believe him. The alternative was too terrifying. The text messages were what finally made me realize something was seriously wrong. My best friend Linda showed me a text thread on her phone when we met for lunch one Saturday in early May. I'd apparently sent her several messages the night before, declining her invitation to a gallery opening, rescheduling our book club meeting, and telling her I was taking some time to focus on my marriage and needed space from social commitments. I never sent those messages. I would never send those messages. Linda and I had been friends for 15 years. We talked almost every day. I would never push her away like that, and certainly not in that cold, formal tone. But they were in my phone too. Sent from my number at 11:02 p.m., 11:15 p.m., and 11:23 p.m. At times I should have been deeply asleep. The messages were in my voice, sort of, but not quite right. Too formal, missing the emojis and abbreviations I always used. Like someone was trying to imitate me but didn't quite get it right. I started questioning my sanity. Was I sleepwalking? Was this early onset dementia? My grandmother had Alzheimer's, and I knew it could run in families. Was the stress of work finally catching up to me? I'd been working overtime, picking up extra shifts to help pay for Emma's wedding. Maybe my brain was just overloaded. Maybe I needed a vacation. David suggested I see a doctor. He brought it up gently one evening after I'd spent 20 minutes looking for my car keys, only to find them in the refrigerator, which I had absolutely no memory of doing. "Honey, I'm worried about you," he said. "These memory lapses are getting worse. Let me make you an appointment with Dr. Harrison, just to rule out anything serious." He even made the appointment for me, called the office himself, spoke to the receptionist, got me in for the following Tuesday. That should have been red flag number 5, but I was too scared and confused to see it. May 22nd. Linda met me for coffee before my shift at a cafe near the hospital. I got there first and ordered my usual vanilla latte, but my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the cup. Linda arrived 10 minutes later, took one look at my face, and immediately grabbed both my hands across the table. "Maggie, you're scaring me," she said. "You seem drugged. Your eyes are glazed over. You're moving in slow motion. When we had dinner last week, you could barely finish a sentence. You kept losing your train of thought mid-conversation. I told you the same story 3 times, and you didn't remember hearing it the first 2 times. "I'm just tired," I told her. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. The new vitamins are helping me sleep better, but maybe I'm sleeping too much. Maybe I need to cut back on the dosage. Linda's face changed when I mentioned the vitamins. Her expression went from concerned to alarmed in an instant. "What vitamins?" she asked. I told her everything. About the supplements David had given me. About the company name I'd never heard of. About how he insisted I take them every single night at exactly 10:30. About how he'd started checking to make sure I actually swallowed them, watching me until the pills were gone. Linda pulled out her phone and started searching right there at the table. She typed in the company name from the label, searched for Pfizer Wellness Division, looked up the specific ingredients David had mentioned. "Maggie," she said after several minutes of searching, "there is no Pfizer Wellness Division. There's no company by that name. These supplements don't exist. Not in any legitimate pharmaceutical database." My blood ran cold. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "Maybe he got the name wrong," I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set down my coffee cup. Linda leaned forward, her voice urgent and serious in a way I'd never heard before. "Maggie, listen to me. As your friend, as someone who's known you for 15 years, as someone who loves you, something is very wrong here. Stop taking those vitamins, tonight. Don't tell David, don't discuss it with him, don't ask him questions. Just stop taking them and see what happens. Document everything. Write down how you feel, what you remember, any changes you notice." I nodded, but I was terrified, because if Linda was right, if those weren't vitamins, if David had been lying to me about what was in those pills, then what had my husband been giving me? What had I been putting in my body every single night for the past 2 months? And more importantly, why? What possible reason could David have for drugging his own wife? The questions swirled in my head, each one more frightening than the last. I couldn't answer any of them. Not yet. That night, I went home and did something I never thought I'd do. I lied to my husband. David brought me the pills at 10:30 like clockwork. 2 capsules, glass of water, kiss on the forehead. "Take your vitamins, baby," he said with that smile I used to find comforting. I put the pills in my mouth, took a sip of water, and pretended to swallow. The moment he turned his back to set down the water glass, I tucked the capsules into my cheek, holding them against my back molars the way I'd seen patients do when they didn't want to take their medication. David sat on the edge of the bed, watching me. He'd been doing that more often lately, I realized, staying in the room after I took the pills, observing me, waiting for something. "Open up," he said, and my heart nearly stopped. He'd never asked me to do that before. "Let me see. Make sure you actually swallowed them. You've been so forgetful lately, I want to make sure you're really taking them." I opened my mouth, lifted my tongue slightly, praying he wouldn't look too closely. The pills were hidden against my back molars, tucked into the space between my cheek and gums. He leaned in, examining my mouth like a parent checking a child's teeth. After what felt like an eternity, he nodded, satisfied. "That's my good girl," he said, and kissed my forehead again. Those words made my skin crawl. I'd heard him say them 1,000 times before, but now they sounded different. Controlling, condescending, like I was a pet being trained to obey. He left the room, closing the door behind him. The moment his footsteps faded down the hallway, I ran to the bathroom and spit the pills into my hand. I stared at them, these innocent-looking capsules that I'd been swallowing without question for 2 months. What was in them? What had they been doing to me? And what was going to happen in the next 48 hours that would shatter every illusion I had about my marriage and the man I thought I knew? May 22nd, 10:30 p.m. David brought me the pills like he did every night. 2 capsules, glass of water, kiss on the forehead. Sweet dreams. Beautiful, he said with that smile I used to trust. I put the pills in my mouth, took a sip of water, and pretended to swallow. The moment he turned his back to set down the glass, I tucked them into my cheek, holding them against my back molars. But then he did something he'd never done before. He sat on the edge of the bed, watching me. "Open up," he said with a smile, "making sure you actually take them. You've been so forgetful lately." My heart stopped. I opened my mouth, lifted my tongue slightly, praying the pills hidden against my back molars wouldn't show. He leaned in, examining my mouth like a parent checking a child. After what felt like forever, he nodded, satisfied, and kissed me again. "That's my good girl." Those 3 words made my skin crawl in ways I can't describe. The moment he left the room, I ran to the bathroom and spit the pills into my hand. I stared at them for a second. These innocent-looking capsules I'd been swallowing for 2 months, then flushed them down the toilet. I had no idea what I was about to discover that night, but I knew I had to stay awake no matter what. Staying conscious turned out to be harder than I expected. Even without the pills, my body had been conditioned. 2 months of sedatives had trained me to shut down at exactly 10:30. The drowsiness started creeping in around 11. I dug my fingernails into my palms, using the pain to stay alert. I bit the inside of my cheek. I counted backward from 1,000. Every time I felt myself drifting, I'd shift positions, clench my fists, anything to keep myself conscious. At 11:47 p.m., David came back to check on me. I heard his footsteps on the stairs and immediately closed my eyes, forced my breathing to slow and deepen, went completely limp. I felt the bed shift as he leaned over me. His breath was warm on my face as he studied me, checking to make sure I was really unconscious. After what felt like an eternity, he straightened up and left. I heard his footsteps going downstairs, heard his office door close, and then, at exactly midnight, I heard something that made my blood turn to ice, our front door opening, the distinctive creak I'd been asking David to fix for months. Someone was coming into our house at midnight while my husband thought I was drugged unconscious upstairs. I got out of bed as quietly as I could, my bare feet silent on the carpet. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure David would hear it from downstairs. I crept to the hallway and could see light coming from the basement door at the bottom of our main staircase. I could hear voices, multiple male voices. I made a decision that probably saved my life. I went back to the bedroom, grabbed my phone, started a voice recording, and slipped it into my robe pocket. Whatever I was about to witness, I needed proof it was real. Then I went downstairs, pressing myself against the wall where the shadows were deepest, and looked down the basement stairs. 4 men I'd never seen before were standing around our basement table. David was with them, and spread across that table were photographs, dozens of them, all of me, sleeping, in our bed, in different positions, different nightgowns, different nights. I watched one of the men pick up a photo, study it like he was examining merchandise, then nod with satisfaction. He pulled out his wallet. I watched my husband take cash from this stranger, $100 bills, 5 of them. And then I heard David say something that made me want to vomit right there on our kitchen floor. "I can get you more. Better angles, more variety. I've got a whole catalog upstairs. Premium access is $500 a month. You'll get new content every week, fresh uploads every Sunday night. If you're still watching this, I need you to do something. Drop a red circle emoji in the comments, because what I'm about to tell you gets worse, and I need to know this message is reaching people, that someone out there is listening. Because what I heard next changed everything." One of the men asked, "Does she know?" David laughed. "No," he said. "She has no idea. I give her a sedative every night. Tells her it's a vitamin supplement. She's completely out for 8 to 10 hours. Deep sleep, no memory of anything. I could do whatever I want, and she'd never know." They all laughed. They thought drugging and violating me was funny. I stood there, in the darkness, shaking, my phone recording every word. I realized this wasn't the first time. The casual way David conducted this transaction, the organized display, the talk of premium access and weekly uploads, this had been going on for weeks, maybe months. My husband wasn't just drugging me, he was running a business. He was selling access to my unconscious body. I somehow made it back to our bedroom before the men left. I got into bed and lay there, my whole body rigid with tension, as David came back upstairs an hour later. He checked on me again. I played dead while inside I was screaming. Then he got into bed beside me and fell asleep within minutes, like a man with nothing on his conscience. I made a decision as I lay there, listening to his peaceful breathing. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. If I did, he'd destroy the evidence, delete files, get rid of photographs. He'd deny everything, and it would be my word against his. The word of a woman who'd been having memory problems for weeks against a charming pharmaceutical sales rep. I needed proof. I needed documentation that couldn't be denied. The next morning, David woke me with coffee and a kiss, like nothing had happened. "How'd you sleep, beautiful?" I looked into his eyes, these eyes I thought I knew, and saw a complete stranger, a monster wearing my husband's face. "Great," I lied, forcing a smile. "Really great. Those vitamins are really helping." He beamed at me, pleased with my response, and I started planning his destruction. I called in sick to work and drove 2 towns over to a Best Buy where no one would recognize me. I bought 2 hidden cameras designed to look like phone chargers, paying cash so there'd be no credit card trail. I also bought a cheap laptop and set up email accounts David didn't know about. I had 4 hours before he'd be home from his sales meeting. I planted 1 camera in our bedroom, positioned to capture the entire bed and nightstand where he always placed my vitamins. The second camera went in the basement, hidden inside an air vent with a clear view of the table where I'd seen the photographs. Both cameras were set to record continuously and upload to cloud storage in real time. Even if David somehow found them and destroyed them, the footage would already be backed up where he couldn't reach it. That night, I pretended to take the pills again, while the cameras recorded everything. Whatever he did, whatever happened in our house while he thought I was unconscious, I would have proof. What I didn't know was that I only had 5 days. 5 days before David's plans would escalate in ways I couldn't imagine. 5 days to gather enough evidence to put him away forever. 5 days before I'd discover that the photographs and the money were just the beginning of what my husband had been doing to me. The cameras were in place. Now I needed to see what they would capture. May 23rd, I'd already called in sick, already bought the equipment. My hands were still shaking from what I'd done. $347 in cash for cameras, another $200 for the laptop. Money from an ATM withdrawal I'd made weeks ago for Emma's bridal shower that I'd never spent. David wouldn't know about it, couldn't trace it. But then I realized my mistake. I'd used my debit card at the coffee shop that morning out of habit. $5.32. David monitored our accounts obsessively, said it was for budgeting, for our financial planning. He'd see that charge. He'd know I wasn't home sick in bed. My phone rang while I was sitting in the Best Buy parking lot. David's name on the screen. My heart nearly stopped. "Hey baby, how are you feeling?" he asked. His voice full of concern. "Saw you got coffee this morning, thought you had a migraine." I forced myself to sound weak, pathetic. "I felt so sick when I woke up," I told him. "Thought caffeine might help. But it made it worse. I came straight home after. I'm in bed now." "Poor thing," he said, and he sounded so genuinely caring it made me sick. "I'll pick up soup on my way home. That would be perfect," I lied. "Love you." "Love you too," he said, and I wanted to throw the phone out the window. That was close. Too close. I couldn't make mistakes like that, not when I only had days to gather what I needed. I drove home the long way, avoiding the route that would take me past David's office, paranoid he might see my car even though his office was on the 3rd floor. May 24th, David had his monthly regional sales meeting. He'd be gone from 8 to 6, guaranteed. The moment his car left the driveway, I got to work. The bedroom camera went exactly where I'd planned it, tucked between books on the shelf, the lens barely visible through a gap I created between 2 hardcover novels. The basement was harder. I checked the air vent the night before while David was in the shower, making sure it would work. The screws came out easily, too easily, like they'd been removed before. That should have been my first warning. I positioned the camera, angled it, tested it on my phone. The entire basement was visible. The table, the sofa, the door. Whatever happened down there, I'd see it. Both cameras uploaded to the cloud automatically. I set them to record continuously, not just motion activated. I didn't want to miss a single second. That night, I pretended to take the pills again. David watched me swallow, made me open my mouth, checked under my tongue. "Good girl," he said, and I wanted to claw his eyes out. I'd gotten better at hiding the pills, tucking them so far back in my mouth I almost choked. The moment he left, I flushed them and got back in bed. The cameras were recording. Let them do the work, I told myself. Just wait and see. At 10:47 p.m., the bedroom camera captured David entering our room. I kept my breathing steady, my body limp. Through barely opened eyes, I watched him pull out my phone from my nightstand. He knew my passcode. Of course he did. We'd shared everything, or so I'd thought. He scrolled through my messages, deleted some, typed replies to others. Then he set the phone down and pulled out a camera from a bag I'd never seen before. A professional DSLR with a large lens. He pulled back the covers and started photographing me. Click. 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 The sound was so quiet I wouldn't have heard it if I wasn't awake. He moved my arms, positioned my legs, adjusted my nightgown. His hands on my unconscious body like I was a doll. 23 photos. I counted every click. Then he changed my clothes, removed the t-shirt I'd worn to bed, and replaced it with a silk nightgown from my closet. More photos, different angles. At one point, he actually lifted my eyelid, checking to make sure I was really unconscious. I kept my eyes rolled back, unfocused, the way I'd seen overdose patients look in the ER. He seemed satisfied and continued his work. When he was done, he covered me back up, put my phone back exactly where it had been, and left the room. The whole thing took 37 minutes. The basement camera activated at 1:15 a.m. 3 men this time, different from the ones I'd seen before. David was showing them something on his laptop screen. The audio picked up fragments. Recent uploads, new this week. Premium tier. One man asked about custom requests. David said those were extra, but he could accommodate most things within reason. Nothing that would leave marks, nothing that would wake her up. The man nodded and pulled out his phone, apparently making a transfer. Digital payment this time, cryptocurrency, David said. Completely untraceable. Smart. They stayed for 40 minutes. After they left, David locked something in a filing cabinet I hadn't noticed before, then came back upstairs. He checked on me one more time at 2:47 a.m., the exact time I'd mentioned at the beginning of this story. The time I'd caught him with 4 men. But that was still days away. May 25th. David went to the gym at 9 a.m. like he did every Saturday. 90 minutes of CrossFit, then coffee with his workout buddies. I had a 2-hour window. The locked drawer in his office had been taunting me since I'd first noticed it. I'd found a lockpicking tutorial online, practiced on other locks in the house. The paperclip slipped in easily. I felt for the pins, applied pressure, heard the click. 7 minutes of sweating and shaking, but it opened. 4 external hard drives, each labeled with dates. The earliest was from 18 months ago, a notebook filled with David's neat handwriting. Names, dates, dollar amounts, services rendered. Some entries went back 2 years, before the vitamins, before the regular drugging. Entries that corresponded with nights I'd had wine with dinner, nights I'd taken cold medicine, nights I'd been especially tired from double shifts. He'd been testing me for 2 years, recording which substances made me sleep deepest, how much he could move me without waking me. The notebook was a scientific study of how to render me unconscious. One entry from 14 months ago. 2 glasses of red wine plus 25 milligrams diphenhydramine. Slept through position changes and clothing removal. No memory next morning. Another from 10 months ago. Ambien 10 milligrams dissolved in tea. Complete unconsciousness for 9 hours. Multiple position changes possible. No awareness. He'd been experimenting on me like I was a lab rat, finding the perfect formula. The vitamins were just the final solution, the most reliable method. I photographed every page, every entry, every name in his customer list, 47 names total, some with email addresses, some with phone numbers, all with payment records. I copied everything from the hard drives to my laptop. It took an hour and 12 minutes. Thousands of files, images, videos, folders organized by date and outfit. One folder was labeled Special Requests. I couldn't open it. I didn't want to know. Not yet. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it, locked the drawer, and went to the bathroom to vomit. My husband had turned me into a product. He'd built an entire business model around my unconscious body. Subscription tiers, custom content, regular upload schedules. He'd gamified my violation. turned it into a profitable enterprise. The notebook showed total earnings of $63,000 over 18 months. That was just the cash transactions. The cryptocurrency payments weren't recorded there. I sat on my bathroom floor with my laptop, uploading everything to multiple cloud storage accounts, emailing files to myself at different addresses, saving copies to USB drives I'd hide at Linda's house, creating an evidence trail so comprehensive that no one could deny what David had done. I was building a case that would destroy him. That would put him in prison for decades. That would expose every one of those 47 men who'd purchased images of my unconscious body. But I needed one more thing. I needed current footage of a transaction. I needed video evidence of money changing hands, of David explicitly stating what he was selling. I needed something so damning that his lawyer wouldn't even try to fight it. And according to my cameras, I was going to get it. Because that night, May 25th, David was planning something special. Something he'd been advertising to his premium customers for weeks. Something that would finally give me everything I needed to end this nightmare. I copied the 18 months of evidence, backed it up to 3 different cloud services, 2 external drives, and a USB I'd keep on my body at all times. Then I prepared for what I knew was coming. That night, David brought my vitamins at 10:30 like clockwork. But there was something different in his eyes. Excitement, anticipation, like a child on Christmas Eve. I pretended to swallow the pills while my cameras recorded everything. And what happened over the next 5 hours would give me enough evidence to put David away for 22 years. But first, I had to survive it. I had to stay conscious and pretend to be unconscious, while David did something that would make everything else look tame by comparison. I had to be stronger than I'd ever been in my life. And then, when I had everything I needed, I was going to call the police and end this once and for all. May 26th, 7 a.m. I couldn't wait any longer. I had everything. The camera footage, the copied hard drives, the photographed notebook pages, the recorded audio from that first night. I packed it all onto my laptop and 2 USB drives, one for the police and one backup I'd keep. I didn't go to our local police station where David knew officers from his softball league. I drove to the county sheriff's office one town over and asked to speak to a detective specializing in sex crimes. The desk sergeant looked at my face and immediately took me to a private room. Detective Rachel Morrison walked in 10 minutes later. She was in her 40s, professional, with kind eyes that had seen too much. I told her everything in one long stream, barely stopping to breathe. Then I showed her the evidence. She watched the basement video first. Her face went from professional interest to barely controlled rage. When David's voice came through the speakers saying, "I had no idea that he could do whatever he wanted to my unconscious body," she paused the video and looked at me. "Mrs. Patterson, what your husband has done constitutes multiple felonies: drugging without consent, creation and distribution of intimate images without consent, possible trafficking-related charges. We're going to need to move quickly." "How quickly?" I asked. She made a phone call right there in front of me. Within 6 hours, they had a warrant signed by a judge. Within 12 hours, my husband was in custody. But first, they needed to search the house while David was still unaware. They needed to catch him with everything still in place. Detective Morrison had me call David from the station at noon. My voice shook, but I managed to sound normal. "Hi, honey. I'm feeling better. Going to run some errands and maybe have lunch with Linda. Won't be home until evening." "Perfect," he said. "I've got a client meeting anyway. See you tonight, beautiful. Love you." "Love you too," I forced myself to say. The moment I hung up, 8 officers in unmarked cars headed to our house. Detective Morrison took me to Linda's house to wait. Linda held me while I sobbed, finally letting out everything I'd been holding in. At 3 p.m., Detective Morrison called. They'd found 12 external hard drives in David's office. Not 4 like I'd seen. 12. Over 4,000 images, dating back 18 months. Videos too, hundreds of them. The customer list had 47 names with contact information and payment records. David had made $63,000 selling my unconscious body to strangers on the internet. They found more cameras, professional equipment, lighting rigs hidden in our closet. They found the pills he'd been giving me. Lab analysis would later confirm they contained rohypnol mixed with sleeping medication, a combination designed to ensure complete unconsciousness with no memory formation. They found a second notebook hidden in the garage with details about dosages, response times, and optimal photographing windows. He'd been running a scientific experiment on his own wife. At 6:15 p.m., they arrested David at his office. He tried to run when he saw the police. They tackled him in the parking lot in front of his coworkers, in front of everyone he'd pretended to be normal with. The charming pharmaceutical rep, the devoted husband, the community volunteer, handcuffed and put in a police car while everyone watched. He called me from jail at 9:47 p.m. The automated system announced it was a call from the county detention center. I almost didn't answer, but I needed to hear what he'd say. "Maggie, baby, please, this is all a misunderstanding," he started, his voice desperate. "I didn't say anything, just let him talk. I never let anyone touch you, I swear to God. It was just photos, just videos, nothing physical. You have to believe me." The fact that he thought this distinction mattered told me everything about his moral compass. "You drugged me for 18 months, I said, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "I needed the money," he said. "We had debt from the house renovation, from Emma's college. We had no debt, David. We had $70,000 in savings. You did this because you wanted to, because you could, because you thought I'd never find out. Please, Maggie, I love you. I made a mistake. It was wrong, but I was desperate. Don't do this. We can work through this." And here's what I said to the man I'd been married to for 13 years. "I hope you remember this phone call every single day you're in prison. I hope you remember that you had a wife who loved you completely, trusted you absolutely, and would have done anything for you. And you threw it away to sell photos of my unconscious body to strangers. You turned me into a product. You violated me in ways I'm still discovering. You don't get forgiveness, David. You don't get understanding. You get consequences." He was crying now. "Maggie, please." I hung up. He tried to call back immediately. I blocked the number. That was the last time I ever spoke to my husband. The police found something else during the search that made every detective on the case physically ill. In a hidden partition in David's computer, they found a folder labeled Special Events. It contained videos of him bringing men into our bedroom while I was unconscious. The men never touched me. David made sure of that, probably to avoid more serious charges. But they stood there, watching me, sometimes for hours. He charged them $500 each for these viewing parties. There had been 6 of them over the past 3 months. The security footage from our own home cameras that David didn't know about would later identify 14 different men who'd paid to stand in our bedroom and watch me sleep. The prosecutors would eventually charge David with 23 separate felonies. The trial would take 8 months. He would be sentenced to 22 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for 15 years. The trial took 8 months. 8 months of sitting in courtrooms, giving depositions, watching David's lawyer try to paint me as a vindictive wife who'd fabricated everything. He said I was lying, that I'd planted the evidence, that we had some kind of arrangement I was now denying out of spite. But the prosecution had 12 hard drives full of evidence. They had the notebook in David's handwriting. They had camera footage I'd recorded. They had the pills that tested positive for rohypnol. And they had 3 of David's customers who took immunity deals in exchange for testimony. These men sat on the witness stand and admitted they'd paid David for access to photos and videos of me. One of them broke down crying, said he thought it was consensual, that David told him I was into it. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all 23 counts. At sentencing, I gave my victim impact statement. I stood 10 feet from David and looked him directly in the eye. I told him exactly what he'd taken from me. My sense of safety in my own home, my ability to trust another human being, my peace of mind. 18 months of my life where I don't know what happened to my body while I was unconscious, but I also told him what he didn't take. He didn't take my strength. He didn't take my will to survive. He didn't take my determination to see justice served. The judge sentenced him to 22 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole for 15 years. Lifetime registration as a sex offender. When he gets out, if he lives that long, he'll be 68 years old. And everyone, Everywhere he goes, we'll know exactly what he is. The divorce was finalized 3 months after sentencing. My lawyer made sure I got everything. The house, the savings accounts, his retirement fund, his car, everything. I sold the house within a week. I couldn't stand being in those rooms where he'd violated me. I sold his car, liquidated his retirement, and donated most of the money to organizations that help survivors of sexual violence. I kept enough to start over somewhere new, somewhere David had never been. The other men, the 47 customers, most of them were prosecuted too. 14 went to prison. Others got probation and sex offender registration. Their wives divorced them. Their children stopped speaking to them. Their lives fell apart, as they should have. That was 2 years ago. Today, I'm 56 and I live in Boise, Idaho. About as far from Denver as I could get without leaving the country. I'm still a nurse, but I work in pediatrics now. Different hospital, different life, different version of myself. My kids struggled with what happened. Emma had to postpone her wedding because she couldn't handle the stress. Michael took a semester off from graduate school to deal with the trauma of learning what his stepfather had done to his mother. They both went to therapy. We all did. We're healing together, slowly, carefully, one day at a time. They don't speak David's name anymore. He's just the man who used to live with us, the man who pretended to be their father, the man who's now inmate number 47,832 inches of federal prison in Colorado. I'm in a relationship now. His name is James. He's a social worker at the hospital, specializes in trauma counseling. He knew my story before our first date because I told him everything up front. I couldn't risk getting close to someone only to have them run when they found out. But James didn't run. He listened. He understood. And he gave me all the time I needed. We've been together for 6 months. He never pushes, never rushes, never makes me feel broken or damaged. When I wake up from nightmares, he reminds me where I am, that I'm safe, that David can't hurt me anymore. I sleep in a locked bedroom with security cameras I control, not because of James but because I need that safety. I take no medication. I haven't researched myself. I trust cautiously, slowly, with verification at every step. Some days are harder than others. Sometimes I'll smell something that reminds me of those vitamins and have a panic attack. Sometimes I'll see a man who looks like David from behind and freeze in terror. I still have nightmares where I'm paralyzed in bed while strangers stand around me. But I'm here. I'm alive. I'm free. I survived something that should have destroyed me. And I'm building a life that's entirely my own. David is in a federal prison in Colorado with 13 more years before he's even eligible for parole. He's lost everything: his freedom, his reputation, his family, his future. He writes me letters sometimes, forwards them through his lawyer since he can't contact me directly. I burn them unopened. He doesn't deserve my attention, my forgiveness, or even my anger anymore. He's nothing to me now, just a nightmare I survived. A cautionary tale I share to protect others. A reminder that sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones sleeping beside us. If you're watching this and something feels familiar, please listen carefully. These warning signs could save your life or someone you love. Any one of these is reason to be concerned. Multiple signs mean you need to act immediately. Red flag number 1. Your partner insists you take supplements or medication they provide. You don't know the source. They watch you swallow them. They're defensive when you ask questions about ingredients or manufacturers. Red flag number 2. You experience memory gaps you can't explain, missing hours from your night. Conversations people swear you had but you don't remember. Plans you supposedly made. Text messages sent from your phone you have no recollection of writing. Red flag number 3. You wake up in different clothes than you went to sleep in. Different positions. Sometimes different locations. Your partner says you sleepwalk, but you've never done that before. Red flag number 4. Your phone shows activity you don't recall. Messages sent late at night, calls made or received, photos deleted, social media posts or comments that don't sound like you. Red flag number 5. Friends or family tell you you're acting different. They say you seem sedated, disconnected, not yourself. They're worried about you but can't pinpoint why. Red flag number 6. You're sleeping abnormally long hours but still wake up exhausted. Sleep that doesn't refresh you. Mornings where you feel drugged, heavy, like you're moving through syrup. Red flag number 7. You find unexplained bruises or marks on your body. Your partner always has an explanation. You must have bumped into something. You're just clumsy lately. You bruise easily. Red flag number 8. Your partner is overly controlling about your sleep routine. They insist on specific bedtime rituals. They bring you drinks or supplements at exact times. They get upset if you deviate from the pattern. Red flag number 9. You discover locked areas in your home you can't access. Secret devices. Accounts you didn't know existed. Equipment you've never seen before. Your partner becomes angry when you ask about them. Red flag number 10. And this is the most important one. Your instinct is screaming that something is wrong. You can't articulate exactly what, but you feel it in your gut. That feeling that made you search for and find this video. Trust that feeling. Your intuition is trying to protect you. Listen to it. If even one of these signs sounds familiar, please hear me. You are not paranoid. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. Document everything. Tell someone you trust. Create a safety plan. If you're in immediate danger, call 911. Just reach out, please. Because what happened to me started with small things, little inconsistencies I explained away. And it escalated into 18 months of violation that I'm still healing from. Don't wait like I did. Don't ignore the signs. Act now while you still can. You are not alone in this. There are people who will help you. There are resources available. There are ways out that don't require you to have all the answers right now. You just need to take the first step. Tell someone. Make the call. Send the text. And please, if you can't do it for yourself right now, do it for the person you'll be a year from now. That person deserves to be free. That person deserves to be safe. That person deserves to live without fear. You can survive this. I'm living proof. I went from being drugged every night for 18 months to building a new life where I'm safe, where I'm healing, where I'm free. If I can do it, so can you. But you have to act. You have to trust yourself. You have to believe that you deserve better than this. Because you do. You absolutely do. My name is Margaret Patterson. I'm 56 years old. I'm a pediatric nurse in Boise, Idaho. I'm a mother to 2 incredible children who've shown me what resilience really looks like. I'm a friend to people who stood by me when my world fell apart. I'm a girlfriend to a man who's teaching me that love doesn't have to come with conditions or hidden costs. And I'm a survivor of something I never thought could happen to me. I trusted the wrong person. I gave my heart, my home, my complete trust to someone who saw that trust as an opportunity to exploit me. And it almost destroyed me. There were days I didn't think I'd survive the knowledge of what had been done to me. Days I couldn't get out of bed. Days I wanted to give up. But I'm still here. I fought back when every instinct told me to run and hide. I gathered evidence when I was terrified of what I might find. I went to the police when I didn't know if they'd believe me. I testified in court when I wanted to disappear. I got justice, not just for myself, but for every woman who's been violated by someone she trusted. And if I can survive what David did to me, the 18 months of drugging and violation and betrayal, you can survive whatever you're facing right now. You are stronger than you know. You have more courage than you realize. You deserve safety in your own home. You deserve respect from the person sharing your bed. You deserve complete autonomy over your own body. Always. No exceptions, no matter what anyone tells you. If this story helped you, if it opened your eyes to something you've been ignoring, if it gave you the courage to take that first step toward safety, please share it. Someone in your life might need to hear this. A sister, a friend, a coworker, someone who's experiencing those red flags but hasn't connected the dots yet. Share this video, send them the link, tell them Margaret's story, because awareness saves lives. Knowledge is power. And the more people who understand what these warning signs look like, the fewer victims there will be. Subscribe to this channel for more true stories of survival and justice. Stories of people who faced impossible situations and came out the other side. And remember, wherever you are right now, whatever you're going through, you're not alone. I'll see you in the next video.